Welcome to the Dev Friday. My name is Michael Olschimke. I'm the CEO of Scalefree. We have the session here every Friday, 11 o'clock Central European Standard Time, to allow you, the audience, to ask questions about data vaults, cloud computing, MVP stuff, cluster computing, data mining, and so on. Yeah, we receive questions. You can use essentially a form here, which I'll show you after the session today. You can also use essentially the chat here, the Q&A function in the client, or just raise your hand, your virtual hand, and I would give you a voice and I'll answer your live questions here. If we receive multiple questions, I would cherry picking those and essentially distribute them a bit over the sessions. And if there would be no sessions at all, if my backlog is empty, then I will talk about the cluster here, my little hobby project, which I don't have much time. So good that you're asking a lot of questions. All right, we received one question on PIT tables again. So we will very short series here on PIT tables. Let me just share to you. So this is about PIT tables and keeping track of business keys for soft deleting, for keeping track of deletes essentially on business keys. And so this person here seen a lot of examples online for PIT tables, but they don't use tracking satellites. Well, we have to distinguish here between record tracking satellites and effectivity satellites. We talk about the latter here in this today's session. So let's say we have essentially three snapshots in a PIT table for a business key, which is loaded to satellite 1. In the first load or in the first snapshot date, the business key is in the satellite. So it has been extracted from the source, has been delivered from the source. In the next day, it's not there because the record was deleted in the source. And then on the day number 3, it's again there. So it has to be, it reappeared again, coming from the source again. Maybe, let's assume this, because they recreated the record with the same business key, right? They reconstructed the record essentially. The idea now is that online you find a lot of examples where the PIT table roughly from a structure has essentially one row per business key and snapshot date. And then you refer to a satellite. So the problem now is this: on the first day, the business key was new. So the descriptive satellite, let's say with the customer data, has some data, right? But then on the next day, the business key got deleted. And then the PIT table examples in the online essentially refer to the same delta still, even though the customer has been removed from the source system. And then on day 3, you receive the business key again, maybe with some changes on the first name, last name, whatever, of the customer. So I wouldn't state this as incorrect. I would state this as a bit not fully sufficient. Let's say this, because the table itself is correct. The thing is this: what's referred to is a satellite, a descriptive satellite with some, let's say, first name, last name of the customers or some other data. And what we see is when a record is new, you also get descriptive data. So you get a delta in the satellite. And then when the business key gets deleted, when the customer gets deleted, you won't receive any changes, or there would be no change essentially. The only thing is, you don't receive a change of the descriptive data. You receive no data anymore, right? So the most recent delta that should be used for reporting on this customer is still the delta from the day before, because you haven't gotten any more information. Well, I'm ignoring for now that the record has been deleted. I'm just focusing on the descriptive data. That's the important piece here. So there's no better description for the customer than the one you had before the delete. And that's why the PIT table is correct, actually, to activate the most recent delta with the descriptions before the delete. And then when the customer reappears, this one here says essentially, the customer reappeared and there was a change in the satellite keeping track of the descriptive data. So that's why the new delta of day 3 gets activated in the PIT table. What's missing here, that's why I'm saying it's not completely sufficient. What's missing here is to keep track of a deleted date. That's your soft delete. You want to indicate when did you recognize the customer as being deleted. And you could do this in the standard satellite, in the descriptive satellite. In this case, there would be a change every day, because then you just keep track of the deleted date among your other descriptive data. But what we typically do is we use an effectivity satellite. The effectivity satellite is a standard satellite and contains the business timelines, like valid from, valid to, and we discussed it last time, I believe. Valid from, valid to dates, but also the deleted date timestamp. That timestamp we add to the effectivity satellite, and it indicates essentially when a record got deleted or reappeared or appeared for the first time. And that's a standard satellite. So we add this to the PIT table, because to the PIT table, we add, by default at least, we add all the satellites attached to the same parent, which we can reduce then to all those satellites which are required for information delivery. But here I'm adding both because both are required for information delivery. The original satellite with the descriptive data, first and last name of the customer, but then the deleted, the effectivity satellite with the deleted date timeline. And that's a standard satellite. Now, what happens is in this satellite, on day one, when you receive the customer for the very first time, there will be a new delta in the effectivity satellite, indicating essentially the new deleted date, which is end of all times, because the record is active in the source. And then on the next day, when the record gets deleted in the source, you would receive a delta because there's a change on the deleted date. You recognize in this load of the 2nd of January that the business key has been deleted from the source. So we set the deleted date in the effectivity satellite to the current load date when you recognize the deletion. So there's a change on the incoming data set, and that leads to a new delta on the satellite. We just keep track of the deleted date as any other descriptive data. So gets you a new delta in the effectivity satellite. And then when the record comes back again, you recognize the record, which is soft deleted in your target. You recognize this record again in your staging area. So you insert a delta into the effectivity satellite, indicating the deleted date to end of all times again, because it's active again. And that gives you the next delta here in the satellite. So that's what I would do. Now, the thing is this. We do it for a couple of reasons. First of all, what you don't want to mix up is the load date and the snapshot date, right? The load date, and it's typically a timestamp, not just a date part. The load date indicates when did you receive data from the source system. That's essentially the first layer of your data warehouse sets the load date timestamp. And the snapshot date is also timestamp when you deliver the information to the end user, right? When you freeze the whole enterprise data warehouse, create your snapshot of your enterprise data warehouse and hand it over to the end user. That timestamp is typically on a regular basis, every morning at 8 o'clock or every hour, every 5 minutes. We hand over the information, and that defines the snapshot date. 2 different timelines. This one here indicates, so those 2 columns here identify the delta in the satellite. That is the most recent delta for this snapshot date timestamp and the business key, essentially. All right, and we do this for quite simple reason. What do you do with deleted records, with deleted customers? To be honest, I don't know. In my holy opinion here, I wouldn't just delete records, delete customers, or remove deleted customers from the dimension. Because if you do that, if you remove deleted customers from the dimension, it means that there's facts, right? Previous facts of these customers. And what happens next to those facts? Are they getting removed as well? That reduces your KPI values, right? So I'm not sure on that one. So what I would typically do is, even though a record is, or a customer record is deleted, I would still include them in the dimension by default, but maybe have a deleted flag on the dimension. So I leave it to the end user to do with this deleted flag whatever they want to do. I'm out of it, right? But by default, I would add those deleted customers to the customer dimension with the flag is deleted or not. And that I can produce essentially. And that's why we need, because I'm still including deleted customers in my dimension, I need to know what was the latest description of these customers. And that's why the PIT table points to or refers to the most recent delta before the delete. And what we do here is essentially a satellite split. Because you, as I said, you could have all the descriptions and the deleted date in one satellite. But we put them into their own satellite just by splitting it off, essentially, separating them into 2 different satellites. And that leads to the fact that this delta here gives you the latest description, even though the record got deleted. And this one will capture the deleted flag as a new delta, essentially, when there's a change on a deletion. So yeah, and the PIT table will then align these deltas together, essentially, again. That's the idea. So yes, so this is actually correct, because I need, for all my dimension members, I need the most recent description, even though the record got deleted. And these 2 columns here will give me access to the quick access to the effectivity satellite with the deletion flag. And then based on the deletion date, which I have in the satellite, I can then calculate the is deleted flag for the dimension, essentially. That's the basic idea. Couple of questions here. Let me just check the chat here. If the PIT, the business key is not part of the PIT. So the effectivity primary key is added to the PIT structure. Yeah, so I'm not sure about the first part of your question, but the effectivity satellite is just a standard satellite that we just add to the PIT table. That's it. And then we have access to the timelines, either from valid 2 dates or the deleted date. The deleted date is just a timestamp in your satellite. And it's either end of all times when the record is active, or the load date when you recognize the deletion of the record in the source system. Because sooner or later you will realize this, and that's when you insert a new delta in the satellite, changing the deleted date to the load date of the run where you identify the change essentially, or the deletion essentially. So we don't update this record, we just insert new deltas, just like any other standard satellite. Don't get confused. There's a lot of comments online, popular LinkedIn article where they discuss that the effectivity satellite has something to do with the driving key. Now, people who went to my training know I'm not a big fan of the driving key, and I can tell you one thing. The effectivity satellite has, by default, nothing to do with the driving key, okay? Nothing. So it's a standard satellite. The only challenge is to identify that that record got deleted in the source system. And that depends on your loading mechanism. Do you get full loads in the staging area, CDC data, which is super easy? Incremental loads is full increment, like inserts and deletes, inserts, updates, and deletes, or it's just inserts and updates, right? So it depends a bit on how your data gets loaded to recognize the deletion and mark it as deleted using a new delta. That's the only challenge, which is a challenge, to be honest, sometimes. But that's the only challenge. Other than that, the effectivity satellite is a standard satellite that you add to a hub or a link, and then keep track of deleted business keys in the hub or relationships in the link. And then you just add the effectivity satellite to the PIT table and you're done, more or less. You can use it now in your downstream dimension members, in your when you want to reduce them, if you really want to do that, or just provide it is active or is deleted flag, essentially. So normally the hash key is part of the PIT as part of the primary key of a satellite next to the LDS. Yes, you're right. So instead of the business key, you have the hash key of the business key. That's right. That's right. I took over the example from the input. It would be the hash key of the business key if you go for hash keys to identify your deltas or to identify your records in a data model. That's right. Okay, cool. Yeah, good session, good question. If you have a question like this, use this form here, sfr.ee/dbfriday. That's where you can submit questions like this, submit images if you want, drawings if you want. And also check out our other webinars on Warescape and DBT at the moment at scalefree.to/webinars. And yeah, the other thing is join the Data Vault Innovators community. That's essentially a forum where we upload, where we answer questions in the first place, your questions, not just every Friday, right? So a bit more frequent, where the whole team is involved from Ignition Data, from Scalefree. We are essentially there and answering the questions. And we pick up some interesting questions once in a while and answer them essentially on a live stream as well. Yeah. And we also use it for publishing some marketing materials like solutions and white papers and so on. All right, cool. So good session today. Hope you have a nice weekend and hope to see you next Friday again. Thank you, guys.